Schroeder Raiders. Welcome back to the Schroeder Spotlight. My guest this week, by popular demand, many students have been looking forward to this interview. I'm lucky enough to have Mr. Saylor join us today. Hello, Mr. Saylor.
Hello.
So we're going to jump right into this because I think we're going to learn a lot today. I just have a feeling. So first question we have, same as everybody else. How long have you been at Schroeder, and then what classes have you taught here?
I believe this is my 12th year at Schroeder, and I've taught life science here and geography for a few years.
So when you taught geography, would you say that was right up your alley, or did you miss having all sciences?
I missed having all sciences. I can appreciate what elementary teachers and some sixth grade teachers do, where you're teaching more than one completely different content area. So it was very strange going from life science, and then doing geography, and then going back to science. I enjoy doing the science topic a little more.
Awesome. Okay. Have you been anywhere else besides Schroeder? Is this the only school you've taught at?
I started teaching at Valley, and even a couple years ago, I taught one class at Valley in the morning. So that was interesting as well.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yes.
And I was a para over at Kelly Elementary early on also.
All right. Awesome. Next question is, what do you think the most important item a new student needs to know when they come to Schroeder? What do you think a new student has to know when they start at Schroeder?
Oh boy. Well, just because of the environment that Schroeder has with the Everyone Matters, I think, getting a early introduction into that whole mindset is a very important thing, because that's very different than like a lot of other schools. So.
Yeah, definitely. All right. What is your most prized possession, and why is it so important to you?
Well, I have a lot of video games, and I collect a lot of video games. So I would say my video game collection is my most prized possession. And it's becoming very useful right now, because I have a lot of time on my hands. So I have a lot of time to play pretty much any game that I want to play. So that's nice.
Is there one game that is maybe more rare than the other ones, or harder to find, that you have?
Yeah, I have a couple games for old system called the Virtual Boy that, if you were in the old time video games groups, you might have seen it. But it's a old Nintendo system from the 90s that I have one game called Space Invaders, which you probably heard of, but it's a really rare game for it. It's worth like $500, I think.
Wow, awesome. Okay. What is the best either piece of advice you live by, or that you've received from someone else?
Oh, that's a tough one. Best piece of advice. Well, I've been told by a lot of people to don't sweat the small stuff, and that's something that I'm not the greatest at doing, but it is some of the best advice that does help me at times, is to not worry about some of the smaller things. So that's a good piece of advice that I'm not an expert at following, but I think it's very good advice that I try to do.
Yeah, I think some of our students probably could go with that too. Don't always sweat the small stuff, right? Some of the stuff will figure itself out.
It's hard to do sometimes, but it's good advice.
Yes, definitely. Is there a teacher or coach that had an impact on your life? And if so, why were they so important?
Yeah, when I went to Central High School, my geology teacher, Mr. Ringdahl, he was just, I had a really fun time in his class, and he was really nice and made me really like science. And basically because of him, I got into teaching science. So I credit him with why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I told him so a couple years ago, and he was very appreciative that I told him. So.
Yeah. So does he still teach at Central? Do you know?
That's a good question. He did as of 2 years ago. I can't remember though at last year's big science meetings if I remember seeing him or not. And this year I don't know if we've had any. So I'm not positive he's still teaching or not, but I know he's getting kind of close to that retirement age.
It was awesome that you got to tell him that because I'm sure he appreciated hearing that. It's always nice when kids tell you things that yeah, you made an impact in some way, and yours was a huge one if he kind of led you into your career here. What's one thing you learned from a student in your years teaching?
I've learned a lot of technology stuff from the students, especially with the whatever the new social media that they're using is. Like I've learned what TikTok is through students this year. I've learned what Snapchat was, 4 or 5 years ago when that started, and whatever the new thing is, I usually learn from students. So I keep I keep hip through the students.
Yeah, and I would say your TikTok account is a must follow. I mean, it's almost Mr. Crafting like.
Yeah,
It's pretty
it's
good.
just it's off the chains.
Um, if you could spend the day with a famous person from history or the present, who would it be and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. So many important people. I'd probably go with like Albert Einstein, just because that guy was so smart and he just did so many things, especially in like the area of science, and he had such a huge impact on just the world at the time. I think it'd be really cool to just know what he was thinking. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that'd be a good one. All right, we've got a couple of student questions here taken from you, the audience. The first one is an interesting one, so I'm just going to read it, and you just tell me what you think here. So, since telescopes use mirrors, right, to look out into space and
Yeah.
things like that, are you afraid we will never see the space vampires before they get to Earth?
That piece of advice about not sweating the small stuff, that's not small stuff. That's big time. And yes, I live in fear every day that, we don't know when they're coming. So keeps me up at night all the time.
Good. Yeah, that you don't know. Mirrors, vampires, right? They don't
Right?
mix.
You have no idea if they're already here. I mean, they could be here.
They could
So,
be. All right, our second student question. How do you feel about missing out on all of the dissections this year?
well, officially, it's not official that we're missing out on them, but assuming that we do miss out on them, that will be something really hard to do. That's my favorite thing of the year. It's one of the cool experiences about being in the seventh grade. So, we got them in a couple, I think last month, all the dissection stuff, and it will be a disappointment if we don't get to do it. So,
Yes, I think this student who asked that question was disappointed that they were afraid they were going to be missing it too. They were looking forward to it. So, never know. We might be back. We'll see.
yeah.
All right, we'll get into our rapid fire questions here.
All right, I'm ready.
So, whatever comes to your mind. There are wrong answers here in my mind, even though some people would say there are no wrong answers, but we'll see where you lie here. All right. So our first question is, do you hit the snooze button or do you get up immediately when your alarm goes off?
Get up immediately.
No snooze. All right.
Yeah, no snooze.
What was the last thing you read digitally or in print?
I read the instruction manual on how to put together my grill, and it seemed like it was going to take way too long, so I stopped reading it, and I will attack it later on.
Okay, good. All right, you are making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Do you put the peanut butter or the jelly on first?
Well, the peanut butter, because I'm not crazy.
Yes, I agree. Do you put peanut butter on both sides, or do you put one side peanut butter and one side jelly? What's your mode of operations for that?
I usually just do one side peanut butter and then one side jelly.
Okay. Staying on our sandwich line here, when you make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever sandwich you decide to make, are you cutting your sandwich on the diagonal or the horizontal?
I do the diagonal because it makes it look bigger when you have two diagonally cut sandwiches because it's the longest side.
Yeah, and I think it just looks fancier, I think, diagonal.
Yeah, I mean, I like to live the high life, so
Yeah,
I'm like kind of fancy.
I agree. Okay, this has been an interesting one that people have answered. Would you rather be the best racquetball player in the world or find $75 on the street?
I'm pretty sure I'd like to be the best racquetball player in the world because I know that the endorsements aren't just flying out there for racquetball experts, but I think I could swing 75 extra bucks if I was that good at racquetball.
Okay. Yes, because we see so many racquetball ads around, right?
Right.
Would you rather have your dishes or clothes be magically clean?
I think dishes, because there's a lot more dishes in a day than clothes. I mean, because especially now, like, we do several loads of dishes a day, it seems.
Right, especially when it's more than just you, right? You got
Yeah.
kids and family and things like that. Okay. Would you rather give up your phone or junk food forever?
I'd rather give up junk food because then maybe I would be in a little better shape than I am right now.
Okay.
So that's kind of my reasoning on that. Is I could certainly use the motivation to get rid of junk food.
Okay. All right. You have breakfast laid out in front of you here, and you have a couple choices to make. Are you picking pancakes, waffles, or French toast?
I always go for French toast because it feels just a little bit fancier to me.
Yeah.
It seems like I get a treat when I'm doing French toast.
Right.
Pancakes are great, waffles are great, but I'm going to choose French toast.
Yeah, and I think there is a fine line between like really good French toast that just blows everything out of the water. Where if you've got that really good French toast,
Oh yeah,
I agree.
got to start with a good bread.
Yep. All right, this is a kind of a tricky one here. Would you rather brush your teeth with soap or drink sour milk?
How much sour milk am I drinking?
Let's say just a little glass of milk.
Um, I'd probably drink the sour milk, I think, but
Oh,
that's a tough one. I might want to wash my mouth with soap after I drink that.
you had to do them both on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This one is called the Mr. Halverson question. Those of you guys out there have Mr. Halverson. Um, maybe you want to ask him about this one. But do you dip your French fries in ketchup, or do you put the ketchup directly onto the fries and eat them?
I usually just dip, but there are occasions where I've been known to just slather, mainly at the French fry feed in the University Park, the largest serving of French fries. When I'm there, that's a time that I might just slather the whole thing in ketchup.
Just go for it.
Just go for it.
Okay. All right. Got a couple more. So, do you like going to the movies, or do you prefer watching them at home?
Uh, Depends on like if there's a couple movies that I want to see in the theater. The ones that have like a lot of special effects, I might like Star Wars. I'm going to go see in the theater, and certain other like maybe superhero movies I might go see in the theater. But most of the time, I'm watching them at home, just because for one, it costs a lot of money to go out there all the time, and a lot of movies I'm seeing might not be ones that maybe my kids could watch. So you know,
And I guess I'm going to piggyback on that question. There's a new trend in Grand Forks that I have heard from kids that uh, they are bringing blankets to the movie theater. Are you pro blanket at the movie theater, or are you against that?
I've never heard of that. I guess I don't have anything against it, but I wouldn't be a person bringing a blanket. So
Okay. I think society has rules, and that's just a rule you don't break for some reason. It's just I don't agree with that. All right, here's our last question. Would you rather play hide and seek or dodgeball?
why can't we bring those two together and do hide and go seek dodgeball?
That would be pretty amazing. Maybe we should, when we get back to school, we could create that and play that in gym class one day.
That sounds like a fantastic game. I would join that one.
Yeah, that would be good. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Saylor, for joining us. That was very enlightening. Students out there, if you have anybody else you want me to talk to, make sure you let me know. Once again, I want to say thank you to Mr. Saylor, and let him say goodbye. See you later, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Saylor.
Yep. See ya.